All right. Hello, all, and welcome back to Survivor Game Show Network. This is another exit interview for Survivor Exile Island. I am one of the hosts, Ian Moorhead. My co-host, Morgan Jackson, will be joining shortly. Our exit interview specialist and queen of the question, Dennie, is here as always. And tonight we are joined by our 8th place finisher and 4th juror, Miss Lauren Pratt. Lauren, how are you doing?
What's up, guys? Good to see you. A little too early, but that's okay. I'm ready to dive into these questions that you have. I'm sure there's some interesting ones, and I definitely have a little bit behind the scenes of some interesting tidbits I want to talk about for sure.
Love that. Girl, you came into this game saying you were going to cut throats. And we definitely saw a different side of you than the Lauren we know. So what made you want to play this game in a really cutthroat way?
So the other ways that I have typically played the games haven't worked out too well for me either. Haven't won one of these before. So thought about going in with a different style and seeing how it worked. Clearly it didn't work for me either. So that's the thing about these games. You got to be able to adapt. And also it has a lot to do with the cast and the people that you're playing with. This cast in particular, I got to say, a lot of these people were gamers. A lot of these people came to play, wanted to win. And I do think that the casting on the season was pretty spot on.
Now, I have to say, again, a friend of Lauren's, but she knows that I don't think very highly of this game that she played. And I think the biggest flaw, and again, you made it to 8th place. You did better than half the cast, but I think that you could be a great player. But I think your biggest flaw was that you came into this game with a strategy and didn't take into account the cast before you put your strategy in play. Like I knew before the season started what you were going to do, and it started in the first challenge. I'm sure Dennie was going to talk about it, so sorry for jumping ahead. But you call out Gaby, and the cast is just like, what? Like, what is going on? And like, who knows like how, because again, glam is created because of that. They kind of work with you but against you throughout the entire game until you go out. But it's, again, you got to where you did, but I think that was the biggest flaw, was that you kind of came into the game with a strategy, didn't look at what the cast wanted to work with or wanted to see. I don't know, you've played more games than me, so what do you think of that assessment that I made?
Well, to be fair, glam was also created because I was not there for the first vote either. So I think a lot of that had to do with they all voted with each other on the first vote. Do I think they still would have created an alliance? Yes. But I also think a lot of the Exile Island impacted that alliance being made for that particular vote because they all had to vote with each other, because on that vote, you only needed 4 to have the majority. So I do think that had I called out Gaby, had I not, yeah, it could have impacted the game. But at the same time, so many other factors come into play there. And I'm going to stand by every move that I made in the season. That's the way I chose to play the game. And I'm going to stick behind it. Still did well. I'm proud of what I did. I don't have any regrets about it. And I will say, I think some of the stuff I did was entertaining. People got a laugh out of it. I still remember Andrew posting in the chat when that first happened, him cracking up because he wasn't there. So he didn't see it. He was in the puzzle room. So people thought some of the stuff was funny. Now, other things, me calling out Jim being left on red, felt a little bad about that because he didn't quite fully understand what I was saying. I was like, ooh, needed to slow down there. What?
I said, poor Jim.
I know, poor Jim. Such a kind soul. He's a good guy.
Yeah, again, and again, the stuff that you did that like I was questioning was entertaining, but like, I don't know. I was expecting something kind of what I saw from your first game, and then that's not what we got. And, I'm kind of glad that you've reverted back to your original gameplay self, because I think that's the best way you can win a game, is that game. Not this one. I I don't think anybody could have won the game with the game you played this time.
No, it's difficult. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to play that way. But at the same time, the last game that you saw me play in, a lot of people didn't think I was as exciting and enjoyable to watch. And so I wanted to change that up. I was more here for the entertainment factor. I'll be honest, I did not think I had really that much of a chance to win the game because I knew people were going to recognize me. Bill instantly knew who I was. He knew who Austin was on the other side. So there's people that knew what I did, that I hosted, that I played games. So I had a target to begin with. And at the end of the day, I chose to come in, be entertaining, see how far it could get me. And it got me pretty damn far. So I can't complain.
Yeah, my thing with the style of play that you chose was, do I think you could have gotten to the end? Yes, I predicted you to go to Final 5. But can you get the votes in the end having played that game that you played? So were you thinking about that at all? Like the end game final tribal council at all? And like, because we saw that, you know, you did rub a couple people the wrong way. It made them not trust you, but had you still gotten to the end, do you think then that you would have been able to talk your way into getting the votes despite some of the things you'd said?
I think I could have gotten votes. The only reason why I say that is because I'm a pretty good talker. I can be very persuasive, and I would have owned my game 100%. I wouldn't have been wishy-washy with the game I played. I would have said, yes, this is how I played the game. And I would have been straight up and been honest. And a lot of the time, jury members look for honesty and you owning your game. If you're wishy-washy with, I kind of did this, kind of did that, that's a turn off.
Totally. I have to say, I give you mad props for coming into this game, playing it in a completely different way. Had you wanted to win this game, then I would say, maybe not. But I feel like an ultimate goal for us and so many people who play these games is to play the real deal. Like we want to be on CBS playing Survivor. So why not use these org games as a way to test out different strategies and different styles of games? So I think like it's great that you came in saying, you know what, I'm just going to do something completely different and see if it works for me. And now you know it doesn't. So if you go on the real Survivor, you know, probably not going to play like this. But I think it's great that you did, just to learn and grow from it. And still, like I said in the cast assessment, that I thought you'd have a target early on because people would recognize you. And look how far you made it despite that. It just goes to show that even though you made the snarky comments and whatnot, you still are a great social player. You build bonds with people and people generally like you. You did rub a couple people the wrong way with the comments, but still, all in all, I mean, I think you built up some great connections in the game. People did want to work with you.
So I think what the easiest way to sum that up is how you can see it. Me during one-on-one conversations with people, that's 100% me. That's exactly the person that I am. I feel as though I was able to connect genuinely with those people. And then I was just a different person in confessionals, a different person at tribal councils, at challenges, with calling people out, saying different things. But any one-on-one conversation or Zoom call with a group, that was 100% me and how I would navigate any type of game. So you did get to see a little bit of both sides of me there.
Is it more fun being a hero or a villain?
Villain 100%.
See, and now you know that because I think it is too.
I had a great time.
There's no such thing as a hero in Survivor.
Well,
there really isn't. There really isn't.
All right, so let's talk about some of your relationships, especially pre-merge. Early on, you had an alliance with Greg, Lilly, Alex, Mike. It seemed like Greg was your top dog, though. Like you were really all in with him. So what was it about Greg that made you really want to work with him?
So really, you don't see much of Greg and myself throughout the season at all. Him and I were very close, and we're actually still very close friends now. He is an amazing person and I'm happy to know him. And you clearly saw that when it was him versus myself and my vote for him. Everything I said about him during that vote was true and genuine. So in terms of Greg, first night when the tribes were set, I knew immediately I needed to reach out to him first. I told him, because I created the Zoom call, I messaged him during that Zoom with everyone in it and said, we need to chat ASAP. So him and I got together that first night, and it was just him and I when everyone got off and people went their separate ways, did what they needed to do. Him and I divided and conquered with grabbing Lilly, then getting in with Alex and Simmons. So that was a strategy that we built together, and we built a great bond with each other. It just so happened I got separated with him on that first vote, and we really didn't get to vote together. So once you vote with a block, you solidify trust because you voted with them at a tribal council. If you have someone that's out on Exile Island, you still don't know where their head's at necessarily because you haven't worked with them for a vote.
Yeah, bombing that first challenge, the other tribe's like, we're going to throw her a bone. She's probably on her way out. So they send you to Exile and you pick Mackenzie. So like the benefit of that is you're safe. I don't think you were going anywhere that vote anyway. And you get to build a relationship with someone from the opposite tribe. The downfall is that you're not with your alliance. And like you said, you're missing out on that vote to build that trust. So do you think that you getting put on Exile hurt your game?
100%. It does. If you're the first group to go to Exile Island, target on your back no matter if you have something or if you don't. And it's really tough to maneuver that because, I mean, you're not going to go back and say to a group of 6 people, oh, I have something on Exile Island. That just makes no sense. I was never going to do that. So instantly target there. And the fact that I went back again so quickly, you couldn't go 2 times in a row. But after someone had gone next after myself the first time, I went right back again. So I just did not have much time to create those connections and bonds as other people did. Because if anyone knows me, I do not sleep that much. I am active 24/7. So I would be communicating with people all the time. The people that are up in the morning early, I'm talking to them. The people that are up at late, I'm talking to them. So I would have really benefited by staying with those people and getting to create those bonds.
And that is why that alliance was created. Glam, that's why Glam got so close, because when you Exile, yes, is the reason, but the more specific reason is when you came back, your explanation of what went on at Exile didn't make any sense to really any of them, because like you partnered with them, you knew from the first few days that they weren't morons. So like the story you fed them, like they were all kind of like, like we know Lauren's savvy already and we haven't even done anything with her. So like, is that the real story? And then Mike and Alex really continued to like sow distrust into Greg and Lilly that like, we can't trust Lauren, guys. And soon Lilly was feeding Greg, like, we can't trust Lauren. But Greg did stick by your side all season.
He did. Greg was by my side. He did not want to vote me out. I did not want to really vote Greg out. But at that point, it was him versus myself.
When you became captain and you guys swapped tribes, I'm curious why you chose Austin. Like everyone on the board as an option, and your first pick was Austin. Was that because you kind of knew him a little bit before coming into the game, or were you just thinking he'd be a trustworthy ally?
So I had a benefit there knowing how Austin is. Austin's very ride or die with his people. And if he feels loyal to you, he's going to stick by your side. So I wanted him on my side. And what happened with that entire picking actually was beneficial for me because I got Greg, I got Mackenzie, I had Austin. And so that was super crucial for me, the way that went down. I never for a second was going to pick Mackenzie first. I never for a second was going to pick John. That would have really tanked my game and it would not have been a good move on my end.
Yeah, you made the perfect choice for yourself. Everyone, I mean, some people knew that you kind of knew Austin, but like John and Mackenzie agreed would have been horrible choices. Mm-hmm. But you still made a good choice for yourself. So.
All right, so you've gained some allies.
Maybe.
We hear you say at one point that Greg is your ride or die, Mackenzie's your bestie. You
Mhm.
make it sound like in the beginning of that one confessional, like it's Greg, ride or die. I'm thinking that's who you're gonna go to the end with. But then you say, I'm sticking with Mac. So had you stayed in the game and Mackenzie stayed in the game, who would you really have wanted to go to the end with?
So we're talking about that point in time in the pre-merge section, or when we get to the merge and then decisions are starting to be made?
Yeah, decisions being made.
Decision being made. Okay, so I knew 110% I could never beat Greg in the end. So I was never going to go to the end with him. He would have been a great ally to go to 5 with or 6. But I think when I was trying to make the move to get him out when I went was going to be beneficial for me, because then I still had people that I could have potentially worked with. When Lilly pulled out the Steela vote, I knew I was toast. There was no question about it. I was done. But I think Mackenzie rubbed people the wrong way more than I did. And so that's why I think keeping her in the game was going to be better for me, which is why I thought about going against her. Because I have said before, I play games and the person that I get really close with, I end up seeing them sit at the end and winning the game, and I'm voting for them on the jury because they take me out and I don't take them out. So I did contemplate taking her out, but I never would have pulled the trigger.
So Mackenzie.
Yeah. Yep.
I do think I would have felt the same way, where I would have trusted Greg and wanted to work with him, but be thinking in the back of my mind, can't beat this guy at the end.
Yeah,
gotta take a shot at some point. As much
I was well aware. No, I would not have a shot to win. I'm not going to go to the end just to sit there and get asked barely any questions and just hand the game to somebody. That's not my style.
All right, so after the trivia challenge, you're once again chosen to go to Exile, and this time you picked Simmons.
Yes.
And that decision threw me off, just because maybe it's because of I'm seeing, confessionals that you're not privy to. So maybe I'm jaded by that. But did you not have any inkling that he was not like someone who really wanted to work with you?
So here's the deal with that decision. I couldn't choose Lilly. I would have wanted to choose Lilly there because her and I were broken up so much in that game, where I would want to had brought her with me to solidify more trust. The reason why I picked Simmons over Alex is because I thought I could talk to Simmons a little bit easier than I could Alex at that time. Things kind of, Alex and I, our relationship, we'll get to that. It was a bumpy roller coaster. He's a good dude, so I'll give him that. But with Simmons in particular, that's one point in the game where I wish I would have done something differently, because I had told him, and this was my true intention at that time, I wanted to get back with Simmons, Alex, Lilly, Greg, and myself, and I told him that. I think what I should have done there, though, is tell him about my advantage and say, if we are down in numbers, because we were going to start getting picked off, OG Phil, and that's what was happening. If I would have told him about my advantage, say, hey, if we get to the merge, if we're down in numbers, we can use this on the vote to help us solidify the numbers back on our side. So that's one thing I wish I would have done differently, because I think it was such a turnoff for him, knowing that he thought 99% sure I had something. I should have just came clean to him about it anyway. And I think that what might have built more of a bond with him.
Maybe. He seemed to really have his mind made up about you, but
well, no, you never know. But I do think even if he did have his mind made up, it would still have made him think and process a little bit, because he could say, all right, maybe she does potentially want to work with me because she's giving me some type of information instead of just giving me all the bullshit that she's been doing this entire game.
All right, so you brought up your safety without power. I wanted to get into your advantages. You get the safety without power on your time on Exile with Mackenzie, with Mackenzie's help, right?
Oh yeah.
And so obviously she knows.
Mhm.
Were you fearful at all in the fact that she knew and that your tribe was going to know that it was very likely either you or Mackenzie did have something?
So here's the backstory to that. And this is, I don't know if a lot of people know this. We were so excited about finding something that actually I never told her what it was. She thought it was a hidden immunity idol the entire time. So she actually never knew I had the safety without power during the entire game. She found out about that when I got to the jury. So she thought that the idol I played when Connor went home was the advantage from Exile Island. So she never knew about it. I never shared with her that I had it. The only person I shared that information with was Greg. He was the only person I talked to about it. So she actually thought I used the idol to get out Connor.
So I have a question. Which did you trust more? Did you trust Mackenzie, even though she didn't know what it was? Did you trust Mackenzie knowing about your Exile advantage, or did you trust Greg knowing about your idol?
More. Which one I trust? That's really difficult because you really don't want anyone to know you have an advantage, but not gonna lie, I wouldn't have found the idol without Greg. And that is something I will say about myself. I was able to utilize my social game with somebody else to help me find an advantage. And he could have easily, I didn't share all the information with him where he could have gone and cracked the code himself. And so that's something that I was able to do to have that idol in my pocket and not his. Whereas with Mackenzie, I think Mackenzie had a big mouth in the game sometimes because she told me about John's idol very early on. She basically came clean about that as soon as we swapped. So I would say Greg for sure. Greg only talked about my advantage when his back was against the wall. So he only let people know about that when it was between him and myself going home.
All right, Morgan, welcome to the party.
I think we're all like the Hot Mess Express tonight.
Yeah.
Just grilling Lauren about her pre-game or pre-merge.
Nice.
So Lauren, I was gonna bring that up. You found the idol with Greg's help. I mean, Greg really helped you get this idol. He had all the info. You just pieced it together. So obviously there was no getting around Greg.
No, but I wanted it.
You could have known that you didn't have an idol. I always say I would never want anyone to know I have an idol or any advantage in the game, but clearly he has to know. So did you trust him 100% to not share that information?
At that moment in time, I was very trusting with him. And the thing is, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get that by myself, but I wanted it in, if it was not in his hands, my hands. Because we still had people in that tribe that we wanted to vote out, and I didn't want them to get it because Victoria pointed out, do you think Morgan's message means anything? And I told her no, because I didn't want her to keep looking. And I knew Victoria's very smart. I knew she was looking around and she maybe could have figured it out. But the fact that I said, no, it doesn't mean anything, I think she stopped looking. And that's why I didn't tell anybody that I was even paying attention to that chat at all. And I think having it sit there, I don't think it would have been found, but you don't know that because people can go back and check messages, and I wanted it in my hands if it couldn't be in Greg's.
Well, funny you should bring up Victoria, because I talked about relationships that you did make, and that's what I'm curious why you did not make. Victoria, to me, felt like someone you could have taken under your wing. Like, you have experience in these orgs, and she's like super interested, is a smart player, not as social as you. I felt like if you would have swooped her up, she would have stayed loyal to you. So why was she not an option for you in this game?
Well, she was loyal to me. Her and I actually had really good conversations with each other. The problem that we had was when Greg got sent to Exile Island, and it was Jim, Austin, Mackenzie, Victoria, and myself. Well, I'm freaking not going home. And I knew they were not going to bite on sending Jim home. I freaking tried. And if it's between me or her, like, sorry, you got to go. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for somebody else at that point in time, especially that early on. If I could have kept Victoria, that would have been amazing. But also me pushing to save her so hard could have been a turnoff for someone such as Mackenzie, who I knew at that point in time had the numbers, and I needed to know that I was on her side.
Okay. So after the second swap, Phil and intern tribes go to joint tribal, and you burn your idol. Connor gets the majority of the votes. I know you defend your idol play, so
I'll defend. Yeah, I will defend that one. Everyone I've talked to said they would have done the exact same thing, and that's good enough for me. You have to look here. Jim, I had called him out at a tribal council before, so I'm not sure how he felt about that. Andrew, that's the first time I'm meeting Andrew. The only person I somewhat felt comfortable with was Austin in that situation. So Austin, Greg, and myself, not enough numbers because Andrew, Jim, Connor, and Zucker can all 4 vote as a block there. And I thought it was the safest play for me to play it. And also I wanted to get rid of it, essentially, because then that gets another advantage out of my hands going into merge. And I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I will 100% defend that all day long. Had I had a better relationship with Jim at that point in time, maybe I wouldn't have used it. But Jim talked about all day wanting to get out the big threats. And I knew I was in the back of his mind of someone to target 100% from the moment he got stuck on the tribe with me. So I'm going to stick by that play.
Okay. Afterwards, there was no regret. You said you have no regrets, but in that moment, did you think like to yourself, shit, I wish I wouldn't have used it?
I mean,
now you no longer have it.
I mean, of course you're going to wish that you wouldn't have used it, but at the same time, I'm not going to take that type of risk. I'm really not. We were that close to the merge. It's not something I was willing to do. And Greg and I even talked about it.
I just thought that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just thought that was like a decision where you more so just didn't want to be a pre-juror than like, it's a terrible play. I'm not gonna sit here and say, you know, you can say that everyone that you talk to, whatever, it's a bad idol play. The reason it's a bad idol play, and I've told Lauren this already, is that she tells, there's a Zoom in the season where she tells everyone, like, I trust you. The 5 people that vote out Connor, she says, I trust you guys 100%. In order to prove that trust, playing your idol shows that you don't trust them. I mean, again, Mackenzie and Austin, you don't have to worry about, but Andrew and Jim, at that moment, they're like, well, clearly she doesn't trust us. And then you lose 2 more people. Also, you know that no one in the game knows you have this thing besides Greg. And Greg, I mean, he's not going to tell anybody. You could have just sat around the whole time at the merge with an idol that nobody knew about. And everyone knew about John's stuff. You would have been the only person in the game with an idol. And I don't think you would have been targeted because of it, because no one knew you had it. Therefore, you can use it at the 8 vote. Who the hell knows who gets voted out? Who'd you guys vote for? Greg goes home.
Yeah, but I told people that was the advantage from Exile Island. So that's what I told people when I did play it. That was the advantage from Exile Island. So that was something I was trying to use as not being a target going into the merge, because then the only other person that knew about the safety without power was Greg. No one else knew about that. So by me saying that was from Exile Island, people didn't think I potentially had anything anymore. Some people did, some people didn't. But that's the thing about advantages. It's scary if you have something, and it's scary if you don't have something, because then people don't know where to throw the votes. So I think people always thought in the back of their mind, I did have another thing, but that's good. And it's also bad. It just depends how people are thinking. The game is forever changing, and you don't know necessarily what one person's thinking one day, what one person's thinking another, because you see moments before every single tribal council, the vote can change in an instant. That's just the way this game works. It's crazy fast paced.
Oh yeah, and just because someone's telling you something clearly doesn't mean that it's true.
Right.
And I mean, I said to those people, I trusted them 100%, because I'm not going to lie, I would have been fine if they put their votes on me then anyway, and I played the idol and it worked out in my favor. So of course I'm going to say that, because I didn't want them to think I had something just in case they were considering, yeah, we still want to vote for her. So I wanted them to think I wasn't going to play anything. So I also was doing that as well.
It could have saved you in the long run. We might have been having this conversation a week later, but to each their own.
Yeah, I'm just saying, really, how much more time was it going to buy me in the game? Probably not that much.
All right, so I have to bring up the Zucker vote.
Sure. Let's talk about the Zucker vote.
Yeah, I've had this chat with Lauren already. You know how I feel about that vote, and not just because I became a fan of Zucker's, but just because I feel like at this point in the game, you and John kind of needed each other. And that is John's number one ally. We later find out he wants to eventually turn on John, but you didn't know that. You just figured, you said, I'm going to take out his right-hand man. So if you're wanting to work with John at this point, why do you want to take out his right hand at this point in the game? Because I would feel like the more numbers you could pull in, the better. Why not join forces with John and Zucker, and then you have you and Mackenzie, and then maybe pull in Greg?
So here's the deal with Zucker. Zucker shared zero information with me. So because he's close to John, that's great for John. That's not great for me, even though I want to work with John. Zucker and I barely had any strategic conversations with each other. We had friendly conversations, but none of them were strategic. Zucker was never on my side. Zucker wanted me out. So I got out someone that wanted me out. Like, sorry that I was John's best, alliance member in the game. But also I thought if we got rid of Zucker, John would have really had no choice but to work with us. Instead, John goes for the revenge vote, and it ends up biting, I gotta say, him and myself in the end. Like, not gonna lie, we literally chopped each other's people out. I took out Zucker, he took out Mackenzie, and then him and I are just stuck there with essentially Austin, even though I still have a relationship with Greg. So we literally take each other's people out.
And that's my whole point. I'm thinking is if the script had been flipped, and he was able to pull the numbers to take out Mackenzie on the Zucker vote, would you just have run to John with open arms at that point? Or would you have been like, fuck you for taking out my girl? You're out of here.
I don't know if I would have done the revenge vote, because as you could see, when people blindsided me with Mackenzie, I was still trying to go back and work with some of those people. John voted out Mackenzie. I went back to John and was trying to work with John on that next vote. So I stayed pretty calm when Mackenzie went home. I didn't lash out at anyone. I was very chill with that entire situation. And it is a turnoff for some people when people get angry. And actually, the problem was because John kind of lashed out at Mackenzie. Mackenzie's the type of person, if you do that to her, she's done with you. And she stopped talking to him. And that also kind of hurt the relationship, because John goes, all right, Mackenzie's not talking to me, just going to take her out because it's not working anymore.
And so did you think that Mackenzie was better for your game than John was?
At what point?
That point. The point that Mackenzie gets voted out.
The point that Mackenzie gets voted out?
Or the point you vote out Zucker?
I thought Mackenzie was better for my game than John.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the worst. I mean, again, I've said it for the last 3 exits. It's the worst move of the season. It kills not only Zucker's game, it kills Mackenzie's game, it kills your game, it kills John's game. And yeah, I mean, again, voting out, even if Zucker wasn't on your side, I think I would have tried to use that as a way to still get. Zucker was telling John everything.
But Zucker was also going to turn on us immediately after that vote if he was going to stay in the game. So that's the thing. We were going to be targeted no matter what. I'm trying to explain. I had, at that point in time when I got to the merge, I had a 0% chance to get to the end unless I won out with immunities. I had relationships with people, but no one wanted to work with me to get me much further than I got. So yes, even though I took out Zucker and then it was a domino effect from there, there was still not an end in sight because John was going to eventually want to cut me loose. I was going to eventually want to cut John loose. It just, there was nobody that I necessarily was like, I'm going to go 110% to the end with these 2 or 3 people. It just was not happening.
Yeah, it started with the Gaby thing and then the Jim thing. And then
well, that's what I'm saying though. Like I knew I had no shot to get to the end. So at that point in time, what am I going to do? I did the best I could to get where I got, but I wasn't going to go much further whether I kept Zucker or I didn't, because Zucker was going to come for us, whether he stayed in the game that round or for the next round. So people were going to come for me no matter what, and people were going to come for John. There was no win there. There really wasn't. The only way we had a chance of getting to the end is if you won immunity all the way through. That's the only chance I had.
So the Mackenzie vote, you were targeting Jim, and you said that Jim was throwing your name around a lot.
Yep.
A lot of people were throwing your name around a lot, though. Did you think that Jim really had enough of a social game and enough pull to pull off a move like voting you out, getting the numbers to vote you out?
Well, absolutely not. But you see with the vote where I do go out, Jim flips to vote me out. So I never had Jim with me. Jim was never on my side. He was tired of people telling him how to vote, what to do in the game. He didn't have, in my opinion, did not have any pull in any of those merged votes. He kind of just went along with what he was told, which is fine. But once Mackenzie went, he was loyal to Mackenzie. He wasn't loyal to me. The only reason why he was somewhat working with us is because Mackenzie was there. Once Mackenzie was gone, Jim and I were not together.
Now you're number one, Mackenzie is out of the game. Did you see any path that you could, because you still have Greg, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that you can use Greg to like weave in and work it to your advantage? Because you know people are like, did you know how distrusting of you Lilly was at this point?
I mean, I didn't trust her either. Clearly I ranted about her in the game, so I didn't really trust her either.
No, you two were like this a lot.
Yeah, come on, we didn't trust each other. It wasn't happening. It was both sides. My favorite confessional that she made was like talking about who was loyal with who and who was looking out for who, and then she goes, Lauren has no allegiance to anyone, she just looks out for herself. And I was like, there you go, Lilly, there you go. Yeah, we weren't together. We were at the beginning of the game, and then at the merge we were just kind of, we knew we were somewhat wanting to work with each other, but we were with different people. She was more loyal with Mike and Alex in that crew. I was more loyal with Mackenzie and Austin. And also my biggest issue too, I was trying to play both sides for too long. I was jumping into that group with those people. I was jumping into the other group with John, Austin, them. That's the other thing. I didn't pick a side. That was my other issue. I did not say, all right, I'm just going to ride with these people. I kept flipping back and forth because you saw in so many of those votes, people were left out of votes. And on the next vote, you could have been left out on that one. It was crazy how it was moving.
So then you're in a call with Alex and you ask him, are we voting 5 strong or are you wanting to make a move? And he says, that's the $1 million question. Mm-hmm. More like $120 or whatever it was. But I feel like his answer was very telling because he didn't just say, oh, we're in this.
Oh, I knew we weren't voting 5 strong.
Yeah. Did you?
Hell no. That entire alliance was bullshit. At the merge, that entire alliance was bullshit. Every single person in it knew it too, because the thing is, Simmons voted with that crew on the first vote. Alex and Lilly, they didn't vote with us. The only person that was in on every single vote up until that point in time was Greg. Everyone else had been left out of the vote here or there. But no, that alliance was never real. And we all knew it.
And we also heard him say he didn't feel good about voting you, though, because he felt like Greg was the biggest target in the game. So maybe there was, I feel like, just a missed opportunity between you and Alex. Had you guys tried weaving in with each other earlier in the game? maybe you guys could have formed something.
So what you don't see in the episode when I do get voted out is Greg, he used this to save himself, and I get why he did it. He went and told people about my advantage, and Alex and I had that conversation about my advantage. I tried to actually strike a deal with Alex where I told him, I said, okay, if you keep me in this game and I get to the 6, I will use the advantage however you want me to use it. I can use it to save you, so you don't have to vote at tribal council. You can go and leave, or I can use it on somebody else. I will use the advantage any way you want me to. Was I telling him the truth? Hell no. But I was trying to save myself. Would I have, if I would have gotten to the 6 with that advantage, I would have played it for me, like 100%. And I think he knew that, but I'm still going to try. I fight to stay in the game. I wasn't going to go out just knowing that I was going. I was not blindsided at all. I knew I was the vote, but I gave it my best effort to still try and stay in the game. And I did try and pitch to Alex, listen, I will make this deal with you. If you get out Greg here, we can work together, and people probably wouldn't think that you and I would work together. That's the other thing I was pushing with him, but he didn't budge, and he decided to go against me and vote me out.
Yeah, he went with Greg, who said, I don't even care about the win. I just want one of the 4 of us to win.
Yep.
With that over your advantage. But I think it's just because of the relationship that he had with Greg.
For sure.
Over the lack of one with you. All right, so you get voted out.
Yeah.
And you think you're out of the game.
Yeah, I was, I was at peace with that.
Yeah, and then you're like shocked and find out you have a chance to get back in. So you just said you were at peace. Mm-hmm. Were you excited for the chance to get back in the game, or were you like, oh man, like this is too much pressure. I don't want this.
It's not even necessarily the pressure. It's really difficult because I was the first to go in that segment. It's really difficult to be the first person voted out there because I'm sitting in the waiting room for the Zoom for an extra 35, 40 minutes, not necessarily knowing what's going on. And I'm trying to process it. So you're trying to process just being voted out. Yes, I wasn't blindsided, but it doesn't matter. Getting voted out is really difficult because you replay things in the back of your mind. Like I could have done this, could have done that. And Ian and Morgan can tell you when they pulled me back in, I was confused. I had no idea what was going on. I just was like very lost.
So then you compete with John. Mm-hmm. And I was telling other people, like, I really thought you had it. Like, I didn't know because you and John battled it out in a previous challenge that had to do with balance. Mm-hmm. And you pulled out the win there. Mm-hmm. So I thought you could do it again. I was surprised that you didn't, but what I'm wondering is if you had gotten back into the game, do you think you would have fared well? Do you think you could have actually maneuvered, or do you think you would have been just immediately taken out had you not won the challenge?
I said this before. I think if I would have won that challenge, I would have had a little bit of a better shot than John to make it maybe a vote further. And it would have just been a vote because they would have used me as a number just to get somebody else out and then vote me out right after that. So I wasn't going to go much further if I would have gotten back in. People would have used me for one vote and then voted me out right after that. And I think that's exactly what would have happened. I think I would have gone one step further than what ended up being it just was not going to happen.
Unless you just went on a run.
Yeah, and then that's what I said. I said the only way I would have made it to the end is if I would have won all the immunity challenge, which was not going to happen.
All right, so throwing it over to questions from fellow castaways.
All right, so because of scheduling and things this week, we were not able to get a post onto our Facebook page to get questions from all of you, but we did send a message to the cast to get questions for Lauren from them. So our first question is from Gaby. She asked, if you could go back and play the season again, what is the one thing you would have changed about your game?
Well, first off, I don't want to go back and play the season again, so I can say that out loud. Honestly, one thing that I would have changed about how I would have played the game, I've talked about it before, just go into the game, make the personal relationships that I normally do, and just bond with people and be myself and not try and necessarily, you know, provide that entertainment. Yes, some of it I did have fun doing it. I really did. It was enjoyable. A lot of people got a kick out of it. But if I want to win a game, I need to go in and play my style, which is creating those social connections and getting to know people and just bonding. Because at the end of the day, you have to be somewhat likable to get further in the game, but you can't be too likable because then you're a target.
All right, next question is from Bill. He asked, how would your game have changed if you hadn't spent so much time on Exile Island at the start?
I mean, I think it's the same answer that I just said before. If you miss out on those key conversations, you're behind. And just to bring up Victoria real quick, I think sometimes she wasn't able to get in some of those key conversations, so she missed out on getting to create those connections, and that's why she was a target on that first vote along with Will, because she wasn't talking to as many people. So my game, if I was never on Exile Island, I think I would have created those connections in one-on-one conversations, in group calls, because I brought it up before, how I was with those people individually and on those Zoom calls with everyone. That's me. That's the way I talk to people. That's the way I interact with people. What you see in confessional, that's just, yeah, that was fun.
Totally.
All right, next question is from Victoria. What was something from your experience hosting that helped you in this game?
That's a good question.
That is a really good question. I mean, here's the thing. It all comes down to the cast. As a host, you're hosting. And I'm not really necessarily looking at how people are playing the game. I'm in host mode. If people haven't seen it, I'm kind of just like zoned in and I don't care what anything else is going on. I'm going to rip people with questions at tribal council, and I'm very serious about what I do. So I don't actually think hosting necessarily helps you as a player, because you're not in the game. You're seeing the side of the contestants that are playing the game, but you're not actually playing with them. And every single cast is different. So I've seen multiple people play their games, but I'm not going to go and play somebody else's game and be how they were, because that might not be beneficial for me and how I want to play the game.
What about, I think this was kind of the way that I was thinking of it. What about, like, how did it help you with like finding advantages? Like, I feel that's kind of where the hosting and being part of production is kind of more helpful.
Well, sure. So yeah, I agree with that. I also think finding advantages comes from playing multiple games, because we see it time and time again. The people that have played before find them, not necessarily because they're good at finding things. It's just because they know what to look for. The one where I found the clue for the idol in Morgan's message, she just misspelled a couple letters and it spelled out math. And I just sent that in thinking it could have been something. But if you've never played before, you're just going to think that it's a typo. You have no idea. So it just comes from experience of knowing what to necessarily look for. And I think was beneficial for me that I kind of thought maybe you guys would have done this or done that, because I've, hosted you guys before and I've worked with you guys on production. But at the same time, I'm actually really not good at finding things. I'm just good at finding allies that help me find things. So it's not my strength. Everyone keeps saying, Lauren's so good at finding idols and advantages. No, I find them because my allies help me find them.
All right, our next question is from Alex. What do you think was your best move? And at the point you got voted out, what was your ideal final three?
Ideal final three. Jesus.
So first question is, what was your best move?
I know. I'm thinking about that. Honestly, in this game, I think my best move was aligning with Greg from day one, because if I did not align with Greg from day one and I had people that were turned off by me, such as Simmons and Alex and Lilly at the merge, I would have gone much sooner. The reason why I stayed so long is because Greg was protecting me as much as he could up to a certain extent. And I don't think I would have lasted long if I didn't have him by my side and if I didn't make that connection with him from the beginning.
And your ideal final three?
My ideal final three. Jim and Austin. Because I think those were the only two at that point in time that I could have maybe have beaten in the game.
All right. Next question is from McKenna. She says, time for the pecking order question from would never vote out to most likely to vote out. Greg, Mackenzie, Austin, John, Lilly, Alex, and Simmons.
Yeah, so start at the person that you would
never vote out.
Never vote out.
I would never vote out.
To most like and end with the person you would
Well,
most
I'm kind of
likely
confused. Are we talking about like where I was in the game or like?
No, just in your mind, because John is on here and Mackenzie's on here and
okay. So the person I would never vote out with, so my number one, okay. Damn, McKenna, what the hell? All right. Yeah, Mackenzie would be my number one that I wouldn't vote out, so I can cross out there. Denny's freaking laughing. See, this is the why do we have to do this to Lauren? Why? All right, I'm gonna cross out Greg's next.
even though you did vote him out.
Yeah, but the way Ian worded the question.
Okay.
This is the way Ian worded the question is what I'm going with. All right. Next would be Lilly, then John, then Austin, and then Alex, and then Simmons.
Okay. All right. Our next questions are from Greg. First question, what did you learn about yourself in playing this game?
What did I learn about myself? So, backstory to anyone that didn't know, during the game, I was actually pretty sick from the Connor vote until I even got voted out. I actually had COVID and I was dying that first challenge that we had where we had the mixture of the interns, the Phils, and the Alexas. And it was really difficult for me playing the game. I was going through a lot at that point in time in my life, just with personal things, and being in quarantine was really difficult. Especially, I don't have windows where I live. So a lot was going on with me mentally at that point in time, and just dealing with that, and then still trying to play a game and still working from home and everything. And so I would say what I learned about myself is that it's okay to reach out to people if you're going through something and that you need help from others instead of trying to figure everything out by yourself. Sorry, I don't get emotional, but
You're gonna make me cry, girl.
just knowing that you're not going through things by yourself and you have other people. And I met a lot of good people from this game that are in my life and are my friends. And I'm sitting here with 3 of my really good friends that I care about a lot. So, yeah, to answer your question, Greg, that's my answer.
We love you, Lauren.
Yeah, we love you. Oh my gosh. That was the best answer ever.
Oh.
Glad that was your answer, and I'm glad that we were here to listen to you.
Yeah, I mean, the game took a big toll on me. It was not easy, and I took a lot away from it. I made, as I said, really great friends. I've met actually at least 4 people from the cast in person since the game happened. So it's really difficult to explain to people that haven't played in this type of game before. You make lifelong friends from it because you spend so much time with them. And I don't think people realize it. Yeah, they're seeing episodes and us going to challenges or us doing tribal councils, but you're talking to these people nonstop for days at a time. And even after the game, just being able to process the game that you went through with those people, because only they know what you went through because they were in the game with you. It's really difficult to talk about it with someone that didn't play because they can't fully understand.
All right. Second question from Greg. Starting from the merge, what could you have done differently to get yourself farther?
So nothing. I'm just kidding. I think picking a side, as I said before, I didn't pick a side. I was trying to still play both sides and kind of try and still be with Greg and Lily and still have Mackenzie and Austin over there and then John as a potential option. I really never picked anybody. I was just kind of a lonely person that was going to go here one vote, go there another vote. And yeah, I never was concrete really with anyone at the merge.
I think that was probably part of your threat level as well, that you were never kind of like settled into one alliance. So you are just this strong player that's also just like all over the place. People didn't know who you were aligned with, where your true allegiance was. So I think that definitely played into your downfall.
I didn't even know who I was aligned with half the time. I'm like, yeah, this sounds good today. We'll see.
Lauren was playing voting blocks and no one else was.
Right. Pretty much.
All right, our last question is from Mackenzie. If you could play Real Survivor with anyone from this game, who would it be and why?
Okay, this is a tough question because there's definitely a bunch of people on my list, but I'm going to say someone that might surprise a lot of people. I'm going to say Andrew, because going on Survivor, you have a lot of downtime. And if you haven't talked to Andrew before, he is the sweetest person and has the best stories. So if you need someone to like provide entertainment or something to do out there, he's your guy. So I want him on my side and out there with me because he would keep me entertained the entire time. So Andrew's my answer.
I like it.
Well, I was going to ask you what your biggest takeaway from the game was, but I think you already answered that in your friendships and just sounds like a lot of self-exploration and just growth. So kudos.
I mean, I play these games to make friends and create connections. That's the funnest part of it for me. Winning would be nice, yes, but that's not why I play.
All right. One word to describe your game. Everyone knows it's coming and then they laugh when I say it.
Well, I knew it was coming. It's just there's many words to describe my game, but if I have to say it one, insanity.
Insanity.
100%. I was insane the entire time. Had fun with it, but also tanked my own game. So it's okay.
It was so fun watching you play. We can sit here and ask you a million questions just like we do everyone, but we weren't playing. So thanks for the insight. Thanks for sitting down with us tonight. Thanks for playing because we wanted to see it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you played again. And yeah, if you have anything else to share, now's the time.
I just want to say thanks to you guys. It was a great time. Glad I got to sit down and talk through as much as we possibly could. But kudos to everyone on production and all the hard work. And I have to say it time and time again, people, you do not realize how much work goes into this. And really, truly, it's the people behind the scenes that make all of this happen for everyone. So please thank them for what they do. It's a lot of hard work, and I just appreciate all of y'all's friendships, and you guys are great. Thank you so much.
Love you, Lauren.
Love you, Lauren.
Love you guys.
Yes, I love you too, Lauren. And thank you for hopping on to chat with us about your game in Survivor Exile Island. Like Denny said, you brought a lot of spice. And although I was honestly confused as to what you were doing most of the game, you got to where you did, and you came on tonight and you were open, you were honest, and you backed up what you did. And whether or not I agree with it, it doesn't matter. You came on and you backed it up. So yes, Lauren is a fantastic person. We all know her outside of the game. And you know, what you saw in the episodes, it's not Lauren. Lauren is one of the nicest and sweetest people that I've ever met. And I don't have a lot of friends, and I'm glad to call Lauren one of them. So, Lauren, thank you for hopping on with us tonight. As always, Mondays and Thursdays are episodes. Wednesdays and Saturdays are exits, and Sundays you can sit down with Alex, McKenna, and Jeremy and recap the episodes. So just hop on with SGSN on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube, and you'll never miss a day of content.